Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Unexpected Goals. This is your Europa League semifinal first leg preview. Athletic Bilbao versus Manchester United, and Tottenham versus the team north of the Arctic Circle, Bodø Glimt, on Thursday. Let's just dive right in. First up, Athletic Bilbao versus Manchester United. Obviously, the Europa League is very important for both Manchester United and Tottenham because they are without the three horrible relegation teams, they would be battling relegation in most seasons. But they're safe from relegation. They don't really care about the Premier League anymore. So all the eggs are now in the Europa League basket. So United got the worst draw here because Athletic Bilbao is an outstanding team and a very, very difficult team to beat because they are so good defensively. So let's just start out with Manchester United in possession versus Bilbao out of possession. This is obviously being played in the Basque Country here in the first leg. Um, but this is a horrible matchup for United on so many different levels because the problems that have existed for Ruben Amorim most of the season have been build up. He plays a 3-4-3 system, and 3-4-3 systems are typically designed to play very direct, play a lot of direct balls, utilize their fullbacks to get the ball moving forward and create overloads in wide areas. You look at 3-4-3 teams like Inter, the Brentfords of the past, Crystal Palace. These teams are just they tend to play a little more direct than actually building out of the back, and it's not a secret either that Bilbao, excuse me, that Crystal Palace and United, both 3-4-3 teams, have struggled in build up. You know, the other problem that United has when you want to be a good build-up team is you have to have good technical players on the ball to consistently play through teams. Teams are not afraid of United going over the top on them. They don't have forwards that can come down and win duels and win second balls and get the ball moving forward. So teams are perfectly happy to just go man to man and press them very, very aggressively. And you can get situations like what they had against Newcastle a couple of weeks ago, like I'm showing you here now. 50 danger zone losses, this is from Mark Stats, and five of them leading to a shot. When you have midfielders like Ugarte or Casemiro who aren't really that good on the ball, and most of your center backs outside of Lisandro Martinez, who is hurt, uh, that makes it very difficult to consistently play out against teams. And usually, a lot of what United is left with doing is just playing these looping balls from the goalkeeper out wide to the fullbacks, which take a long time to get there and truly allow teams to have their fullbacks come up and aid in the press. And it hasn't worked. So I don't really see a solution unless United gets a whole bunch of new players. I feel like I'm saying that every single week. Now, Bilbao is a team that likes to play a 4-4-2 mid block, but they're very good in that 4-4-2 mid block at turning teams over in the danger area. They'll utilize that 4-4-2. It'll go from a mid block to a high block, and they will really cause teams problems from trying to play through the center of the pitch. This season in La Liga, they are second in danger zone losses forced. They're number one in ball recoveries. They're second in both final third and box entries allowed, second in non-penalty expected goals allowed per 90 minutes. They're an outstanding defensive team, and I really don't see a scenario how United's going to consistently play through them if they don't have the forwards who can consistently win duels if they have to go over the top. And given how much they've struggled against good pressing teams, I mean, Bilbao between La Liga and the Europa League is only allowing 0.78 non-penalty expected goals per 90 minutes. I just don't see a scenario how United's just going to consistently create chances on Thursday. Yes, they scored 5 goals against Leon, and it was a completely dramatic and awesome uh, final 5 minutes there, but they were also playing up a man, and Leon is a pretty horrible defensive team. So, I just don't see how United's actually going to do this. Now, the flip side with Athletic Bilbao being in possession, United's obviously very good when they can just sit in a 5-4-1. Actually, that's probably the best thing they've done under Amorim for this season. They're not that good of a high pressing team, but really, this is going to come down to how good is Bilbao effectively creating in the wide areas. They love to isolate the Williams brothers in those 1v1 situations, create those passing triangles. And, I'm going to show you an example here from the lone goal they had against Las Palmas a week ago. You can see here, this is a mini transition break here. They're starting to get kind of, a little bit of a numerical advantage here, trying to at least get one out wide. Williams is able to isolate and have a lot of space here. He's able to receive the ball, play the ball back, and then he's just able to just run in behind because they have a 3v3. So if you can get your wingers or a lot of your attacking players in these 1v1 situations, eventually you can see he scores the goal here. You can cause United a lot of problems, especially Drogu on this left side. Not He's great at getting forward, not the greatest defender in the world. So um, that's going to be huge for Bilbao. Obviously, transition breaks against United is going to be big too. But of course, the biggest weakness of Manchester United is set pieces. So how good is Bilbao on set pieces? Well, they're tied for the league in La Liga with 12 set piece goals, and they have the fifth highest XG per set piece. So huge advantage for Bilbao. And honestly, I think that Bilbao comes away with a pretty convincing win here and sends this back to Old Trafford. I mean, it seems crazy to say right now, and if if you like time traveled like from the 90s into now, and I'm sitting here and you're listening to me, and I'm telling you that Athletic Bilbao is a complete level above Manchester United right now, you'd be like, what planet am I on? But that is the state of Manchester United right now. Let's move on to another English team that sucks. Tottenham. They're horrible. And it's kind of incredible that they've made it this far in the Europa League. Second half of the season has been a complete disaster. You can blame injuries all you want, but Tottenham's inability to actually create high quality chances has been really lacking. And I think it comes down to two areas. Number one, it's just horrible decision making and build up and their inability to break down low blocks. So let's go both over both of those in a little bit of detail. So first off, their mistakes in build up have just become common, like week in and week out, just like comical mistakes from Vicario, from defenders, from whoever to just give teams just the easiest chances ever. And you have to question how this buildup that they're doing, is it causing more harm than good? And there's a lot of data out there that says, yes, it's doing way more harm than it actually is good for Tottenham. You know, and so since Tottenham, when they consistently only play short, it allows teams to just go straight man to man. I mean, what are they afraid of? Tottenham's not going to go over the top, and they're not going to allow their forwards to go win 1v1 duels. So why wouldn't you just commit all of your players man to man if you know that Tottenham's going to try to build out in these type of situations and they're not very good at doing it. So it makes it really hard for a team that is this predictable to consistently build out of the back and actually see what Ange Ball, what he thinks it's supposed to be, which is what we saw when the first 2-3 months last year when it was amazing and awesome, and then they kind of got found out and they have no other way of playing. So this is where we're at. But here's an example of just a completely comical mistake in buildup. So here in this image, the ball is going back to Vicario, and then he is basically playing a one-touch pass because the ball gets back to him, and he's getting hunted down by these three Wolves players. And what option does he have here? It's either a looping ball over the top here to the two midfielders. No, he decides to try to play a one-touch pass out wide. So, either he can get picked off or allow Tottenham to just get pinned in down here on the left side. And he just completely turns it over, as you can see. So, just these type of comical errors are just happening week in and week out. And now let's move on to breaking down low blocks because they have struggled quite a bit throughout most of the season. And what Tottenham likes to do is they like to create these three-man positional rotation passing triangles out wide so they can try to play through teams short and eventually try to play through get a chance coming in from out wide or eventually hopefully find some space in the half spaces to get the ball in and play a cutback. But the problem is they can't get overloads and they can't even really get 3v3 situations out wide because teams know exactly what they're doing. Again, going back to the predictability, positional rotations are fine. That's great. But if you know exactly what the positional rotations are and you can just stick to a zonal principle, like it doesn't really make much of a difference. Also, Tottenham doesn't have wingers that can just consistently beat fullbacks off the dribble. They have the lowest successful take on percentage in the Premier League. They don't send in a lot of crosses. So a lot of times they just get stuck. And I think that's why you see since the beginning of March, they're only averaging 1.36 expected goals per 90 minutes. It's not like they've had a large number of injuries. Solanke has been healthy. Matthias Tell is a great attacker. Like right now, you're looking at their injury list. Son is the only one that's actually injured. So now Bodø Glimt is an interesting team because they're very aggressive, high pressing team by nature. But as you've seen throughout the Europa League, when they've played some of the bigger boys, they've tended to sit back. And in that second leg against Lazio, they sat back in the low block and they really, really struggled. Lazio just kept hammering them over and over and over again, and ended up scoring three times and creating 3.91 expected goals. Now, in the first leg, when Bodø Glimt was at home, they actually pressed Lazio high at times and actually did cause some problems. So I would imagine they would come out here right from the jump and maybe try to press Tottenham man to man. That seems like the best option for a team that's well equipped and able to do that. Obviously, in Norway, they press teams high all the time and very aggressively, and that's why they're the best team in Norway. Now, for Bodø Glimt in possession, this is kind of what you're going to see. So, this is from the match against Lazio. Typically, it's a 4-3-3 build up. They like to get that passing triangle, as you can see there in the middle. Their two eights will, be operating the half spaces, and Patrick Berg is really key to all of this. He is so good, someone so good on the ball. He's press resistant, and he's somebody who's really good at finding pockets of space. So if he's able to receive the ball here in between Lazio's defensive lines and then he's able to draw a defender in, well, that creates space going forward. And that's kind of what happened in this type of situation. This is actually the first Bodo Glimt goal. So essentially what happened here is he's able to receive the ball. The number 10 there, number 8 on the left there is able to beat his man because, somebody had to step up and they got a little transition break going forward. So you can see those type of things happening, and you can look at Patrick Berg's radar chart here. This is just from combined between the Europa League and Champions League. So obviously small sample size, and Bodø Glimt has played some smaller teams, but as you can see, he ranks very, very highly in terms of actually creating chances for his teammates, and also in terms of progressive passes and touches and things of that nature. So with Bodo Glimt's build-up, they're also a very good transitional team, as they've had to be, in this Europa League when they play a lot of the bigger teams. And but they're also very good at controlling possession. I'm going to show you a chart here from FB Ref, and what this shows is not only has Bodo Glimt attempted the most passes of anybody in the Europa League, most of them being short, but they also have completed the most passes into the penalty area of anybody. And they also lead the Europa League, or they're second, excuse me, in the Europa League in progressive passes. Like they are a very, very good, well-equipped, dominant possession side. And they're well experienced in these, they've been in the Europa League or the Europa Conference League many, many years now. So this is not something new to them. This is not a team that, plays in a very small league and completely dominates possession, and then they come to the bigger leagues and they're like, oh, and they come to the Europa League, they're like, oh my gosh, like what are, we can't control the ball. What are we going to do? No, they've actually consistently controlled possession and have attempted more passes than anybody. So with Tottenham's press being very ineffective over the second half of the season, with just the fact that they've run a ton and they've worn down, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Tottenham maybe sit back a little bit and maybe not try to just go full on man to man, because I think Bodo Glimt has a great chance of just playing right through them. Tottenham's defense has surely gotten better here as of late. A lot of the big chances that you see teams like Tottenham or Wolves have is just because they flat out Tottenham has not cared about the Premier League, but in the quarterfinals against Frankfurt, they only allowed 1.2 expected goals over the two legs. And they were very good because now they have Van de Ven and Romero available. It makes a huge difference. Defending in transition is going to be key. And having those two guys available is just massive for Tottenham. So that's your Europa League semifinal preview. Stay tuned to the YouTube channel. I will have a tactical analysis of a thrilling match between Inter and Barcelona from Wednesday, as well as a full preview on my my podcast feed and on my YouTube for match week 35 in the Premier League. So thank you everybody for listening and watching, and I'll see you again next time.